do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they say there. Up, down, up, down. 'Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Radio, 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 radio.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
The human drama of athletic competition.
It's the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 radio. You can reach us at 877-297-8022 if you'd like to join the conversation. On Twitter, we're there. It's at CANUSA SD. And you also want to check out our website for the podcasts and blogging and everything else, CANUSASD.com. And iTunes, don't forget, we've got the latest episodes out there as well. And we are streaming live on iTunes here on the 405 radio. So if you're sort of struggling with the Live 365 feed, you can get a nice, clean feed from iTunes live on the 405 radio 24/7. So let's get going for this week's edition of the CANUSA Sports Desk. First of all, we say hello to our hosts from Toronto, Ontario, blogger, writer, and he's the man behind CANUSASD.com. Derek Marquez, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Frank Nutt is back. He is an NCAA hoops alum and all-around basketball expert from New York, New York. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, John.
And our guest is Scott VanderMeer. He graduated from the University of Chicago, Illinois in 2009, finished his career averaging 11 points, 9 rebounds per game. After an impressive college career, he attended the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament, a pre-draft workout. That summer, he went to the Indiana Pacers for their summer league team. Next 3 seasons, he went to Switzerland in the NBA D-League, the Dominican Republic, and Venezuela, impressively winning 4 championships at each stop he made. So, Scott, good morning, and thanks for coming on the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Derek, take it away.
So, Scott, just kind of let our listeners know, a little bit more about yourself and where you're currently at your in your career. Where you're playing, where you're going to be playing right now.
Currently, I just left the Boston Celtics D-League team, the main Red Claws, and I'm pursuing a career overseas. I'm trying to go to Puerto Rico or Venezuela in the next few weeks. I'm just waiting for a contract for there, and then from there, I'll probably try to get on a summer league team. And if nothing happens there, probably head over to Europe for next season.
So with March being such a big college basketball time, what do you remember about playing college basketball in your day?
Playing college basketball now in March is do or die. I remember every year I was like, I just don't want to go home. I'm going to play my heart out. And I gave it everything I had. It's a sad moment when your season's over, when you just work so hard all year long to get to that point. And my goal when I was in college was to go to the NCAA tournament. Because I went to a mid-major, it was always we always had to win our tournament, the Rising League tournament. And I never actually got to the NCAA tournament, so it was always one of my big disappointments in my college career.
Did you ever get into the NIT?
No. We never even made it to the NCAA. We went 500 all 3 years I played at UIC.
Well, at least you're consistent.
Yeah, and it's
I got my championships when I was overseas, so I redeemed myself.
That's good. Now, I just real quick, I just want to get your take. Since you did play for a mid-major, what do you think the state of mid-major basketball is right now? We've seen over the past couple of years what Butler's been able to do, what VCU, George Mason, those schools have been able to do. What do you think about the state of mid-major basketball right now?
I love it. Even though Butler was in our conference and they used to always beat us, I used to once it got to the NCAA tournament, I used to always cheer for Butler. I thought what they were doing there was a great setup, and I was always for the mid-major teams like the VCs and the Butlers, and back in the day you could put Gonzaga up there, but now they're starting to move it to a powerhouse, I think. But I always cheer for those type of teams. I love it when Butler went to the Final Four and almost won it 2 years in a row. So I'm always on their side.
Yeah. So all right. So kind of get back to your game a little bit. What are your biggest strengths in your game, and what are your biggest areas for improvement going forward?
Well, my biggest strength has always been blocking shots. I left UIC with career, or in one season I had 11 blocks, which was a season high ever in the Horizon League. And then in the 3-year time I was there, I left UIC with the most in the school history and in the league history. So blocking shots has always been my number one best thing that I do the best. My weakness is definitely just getting stronger. I mean, I'm 7 foot. I run the floor well, but my strength has never been there. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm training 3 times a day and trying to put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle while I'm at home. And if I'm at home for a month, then I can do that. If I go overseas, it's a lot tougher because a lot of times when you go play overseas, they don't even have a weight room. So it's hard to stay fit and get strong. You can go do basketball workouts, but you can never really go lift other than push-ups and sit-ups inside your apartment. So that's what I'm working on right now.
That's interesting to hear. I never really, we've talked to guys that have played overseas before, and I have a couple buddies that play overseas, and they've never mentioned that, the weight room really isn't a big part of their game. And I guess you can see looking at some of the, European players, and, I guess strength really isn't a big issue for them. So your game, you're a big guy, you like to block shots. Is there one guy that you try and model your game around? Maybe a player in the NBA or a player that you watched or a player you saw in college?
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to say Dirk Nowitzki because I was 7 foot, 200 pounds. I used to play like the 3-4 because I can move very well. I shot threes. But now I would say more like a Kevin Love, still go get rebounds and can still shoot outside, still shoot the 3. But the only thing I do better than him is probably block shots. But I would have to go with a mixture of Kevin Love and Dirk Nowitzki.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty cool comparison. And I do like their games. Kevin Love, great rebounder. I think that's something that's very underrated in today's game. And if you try and model yourself, around that rebounding, shooting game as a 7-footer, I think you got a pretty good shot.
So, Scott, as a 7-footer, if you weren't a basketball player, what would you be?
Well, I'm actually currently already doing it. I own my own venture capital company. It's something I wanted to do straight out of college. It's been about 2 years. It's called International Fusion. Our website will be up in a few months. I've been investing in companies in the last few years, and right now I'm trying to buy a few companies in the biofarm market and real estate and renewable energy. So it's something that I wanted to get set up while I was playing basketball, just because you never know when that last game of basketball is going to be, and so I always wanted to have something to fall back on.
Well, the CANUSA Sports Desk is always looking for investors, just to, throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I don't do entertainment, but I have a lot of clients that do love entertainment, radio stations, concerts, and movies. So it's always a thing to look at.
Yeah.
So you may have answered this question with your last answer, but what does Scott VanderMeer like to do when he wants to get away from the game of basketball?
It's very simple. I did it last night. I got 2 movies from the Redbox, and I watched them, and I went to bed. I'm a big movie goer. I go to the movies by myself. I'm a nerd like that. I just like to get away. I'm around people all day, all the time, on the phone with my business or on the court with other basketball players. So it's always good to get away. And also, I like to do a lot of charity work and community services. I go to the hospital. Even when I was in the D League, it's recommended that we go like once every 2 weeks, but I would try to go once a week to different places and try to do a little extra here and there. Because I like getting back to the kids. I always enjoyed that, and so that's another thing I always try to do.
Now, on the Redbox topic, kind of like, how long does it take you to rent a movie nowadays? I remember, at least Blockbuster, at least you can kill, 45 minutes in there reading the back of movie boxes. Now, the Redbox, you're there for, what, a minute and a half?
Redbox.
It's like a vending machine.
I'm there for 2-3 minutes. Yeah, it's like a vending machine. It's great. The problem is that I've seen every movie in it that I wanted to see, and now I'm struggling.
So do you want?
I got movies that I didn't want to watch.
I said, just go to the next Red Box. They could have different movies, and the other one doesn't. Like I don't. I've seen a couple of them up here in Canada, but I just kind of miss the day of actually going to a Blockbuster and looking at the back of Movie Box or seeing that kind of movie that you never heard of, but you'll take a shot on.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I think Blockbuster misses those days too. Because I'm pretty sure most of them have gone out of business by now. Redbox is awesome. But so Scott, what is your favorite basketball movie? Do you have a favorite?
I gotta go with the old favorite, Love and Basketball.
Okay, I like that one.
I don't know. That's always stuck in my head. It's always been. I don't say I watch it anymore, but it's something that was a classic when I was younger, and so that's something that always stuck in my head.
At least you didn't say White Man Can't Jump.
I'll tell you what, that's a great movie.
Actually, that's a classic too. And
that was on the other night. I'm a huge Hoosiers guy. I don't know why, but I like Hoosiers. Can't go wrong with that. So.
Yeah, I live in Northwest Indiana right now, so I would have to say Hoosiers is a good movie too.
So talking about Indiana and the Hoosiers, what do you guys make of Indiana cutting down the Nets on senior night after clinching their share of the Big Ten championship?
Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, well, me personally, I think it's a tradition that they had for the seniors. So even though they lost, it's a tradition that they have experienced every year. And so if I was a senior and it was my last night and that was a tradition, I would expect still to cut it down. They're cutting it down disappointedly, but still as a tradition, and I would say good for them.
Frank?
Yeah, no, I agree. They did clinch at least a share of the Big Ten title, and that's a huge accomplishment. I feel like sometimes fans can't separate a game in a season. One bad game or one bad loss can't taint an entire season. I kind of went through something like this when I was in college. Not exactly the same thing, but a pretty similar circumstance. It was on senior night. We didn't win the game on senior night, but we played well, and we ended up clinching a playoff spot. And after a lot of the fans were upset and everything. We lost to a rival, but in the locker room, guys are like, congratulations, good job. We're going to the tournament, we're going to play. So I feel like you have to be able to separate the two, and then to throw senior night in there, I think what they do in Indiana is great. Bob Knight, I believe it was in the early 80s, he implemented the idea that the senior night would be held after the game as opposed to traditionally before the game. And I think that's great. It gives the seniors as much time to talk to the fans as they want. I think that's a cool tradition. So to kind of pair that with what they did cutting down the Nets, I think it's a great accomplishment for a team that hasn't won that conference since 1994. So I think, to kind of combine all those together, I have no problem with it.
Another thing is, the tournament is coming up, and some feel that Kentucky is a bubble team. Do you feel that's a true statement of them being 29-11-5 in the SEC play? Scott?
Well, I think they actually played Georgia this weekend, and so that would be a big game for them. But really, there's a bunch of spots available for the tournament, and if Kentucky plays well leading up to the tournament, I think they should be in. With the kind of record they have and the way the college basketball season has gone, nothing seems certain for these types of teams. And it's sad to have their center go out a while back, and they're playing so well. But I think they can fight through, and I actually think they'll probably make it.
I agree with you. Even sometimes it feels like if it comes down to Kentucky and another team, Kentucky would get the edge on it just because of, when a school does have a reputation like that, they do get kind of a favorite when it comes to that situation. But I would be surprised if Kentucky is not in it. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, see, I think this week hurt them a little bit with losses to Arkansas and Georgia. I really do. They do have Florida today, so I think if they can beat Florida at home, they'll be in. They do have the 20 wins, but I know something that the selection committee likes to look at is when there's a big injury like they had with Noel. Nerlens Noel a couple weeks ago, they like to look at how you played after. And if you look at how they've played after, they've been very inconsistent. And I feel like, these two bad losses that they had this week, hurt them a little bit. They were able to beat Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Mississippi State. But they lost by 30 to Tennessee, who's probably not going to get in. But I think their hot start mixed with, if they can get a couple wins now, they do have the magic number of 20 wins. I see that they are projected to be a 13 seed, so that, and their RPI is 51. So, I mean, those two numbers right there aren't bad, especially with the pedigree that Kentucky has. I feel like they will get in. My guess is they'll probably be a 13, 14 seed, something like that. But again, you never know, especially if they lose to Florida and they end up losing to Georgia again as well. So I think they're definitely a team to watch. They're certainly on the bubble. But if I had to take a guess, I'd say they get in.
That'd be a 13 or 14 seed that I would not want to play in the first round.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Also, how important is the conference tournaments next weekend with especially specific teams already being solidifying their ticket to the tournament. Do they just take it as a prep kind of for it? You just see teams like Duke, North Carolina. It's just that doesn't seem to be as important to them to win the ACC tournament or other big powerhouse basketball teams. How do you guys feel? The end of the year conference tournament really is for some teams that are already going to go to the March Madness.
I think it's really important. Even if you got your ticket stamped to go to the tournament, you still want your team playing their best in all the games leading up to the March Madness. So I think it's important to build up the momentum and the confidence in your team. A loss at the conference tournament level could really affect your team's performance in March Madness. So to me, playing well and getting your team ready for March Madness is very important.
What do you think, Frank?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, you want to be peaking at the end of the season, and teams like Duke and Gonzaga now fighting for a 1 seed, whoever ends up winning the Big Ten fighting for another 1 seed, whether it ends up being Indiana or Michigan if they sneak in. You always want to be peaking at the end of the season, and like Scott said, I agree 100% with that. The thing for me, I feel like it's not as important for these top teams, to maybe win their conference tournament, but you certainly don't want to get bounced in the first round. You don't want to get to the Big East tournament and lose in that first round. You want to play a few games so you're feeling good about yourself. If you lose in the finals, you lose in the finals, or you lose in the semis. But at least you don't want to lose early in a conference tournament. That to me that kills you, especially because the way the NCAA tournament is set up now, you want to hopefully be as close to home as you possibly can in that first region, that first weekend. So if you're a Duke team, you want to be in that North Carolina region. You don't want to be sent out west. You want to have the opportunity to be at least within, considerable driving time to a team, for a team that could use that home court advantage, or semi-home court advantage, whatever it is. But if you're a top team like that, you certainly don't want to be shipped out to California to play in the, in the West bracket. I think that's an important factor to look at as well.
Yeah, I just feel before we go to break, like last year, for example, the ACC final was Florida State, North Carolina. Just like Florida State had more to play for because they're not there every year. And North Carolina is like, well, it's the ACC tournament where, we're in the final quite often. Our goal is to win it all. And, the chances of Florida State ever winning the whole tournament in March is slim to none in basketball. So, the ACC tournament meant a lot more to those players than it did to the North Carolina players, I felt. And it showed at the end of the game when Florida State won the ACC tournament championship, which kind of was big to them. But if North Carolina won, I think, it'd be bigger to win the actual tournament in March.
Oh, for sure.
We'll take a quick break. 877-297-8022. It is the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio, and we will be right back.
You're on the 405.
Hey, sports fans, this is Derek Marquez.
And Frank Nutt from the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 radio.
Just a reminder to check out our live shows on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific.
And CANUSA Sports Desk post-game show, which airs following the Sunday Night Football game and after any other big sport event.
Check us out on iTunes and download our podcasts of any of our old shows that you've missed.
CANUSA Sports Desk and CANUSA Sports Desk post-game show are available for download shortly after we air.
Check us out on our website at www.canusasd.com. That's CANUSASD.com for our latest blogs.
And you can also follow us on Twitter at CANUSASD for your up-to-date latest sports info and tweets for our upcoming shows.
She seemed really depressed.
Had an knack for beating himself up.
She wishes that she was never born.
And it was intimidating to talk to him sometimes because he just seemed so isolated by himself.
She started talking about how she wishes that her life was over.
And so I knew he had depression, but I didn't know it was that far.
He said something to me about killing himself.
Tell somebody, tell an adult, a counselor, parent, whatever.
It's a hard situation because you do risk making that person very angry and losing their friendship.
What are you going to do? Let them destroy themselves? I mean, I don't see much of a choice at all.
It's definitely worth getting help, even if you think you're going to lose a friendship, because it's better to lose the friendship than the actual friend.
Suicide is one of the leading causes of death among teens. For more information, contact the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention at 888-333-AFSP or online at afsp.org.
Here at the Weekend 405, we like to get beachy and mellow out.
I get a big Bob Marley.
We know you listen to escape the harsh realities of the work week.
It's a little harsh.
Wash the weekend down with the 405.
The cannonball!
You're on the 405.
Hello again, everybody. Harry Carey from Wrigley Field on a beautiful day for baseball.
And we are back with the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 radio, live every Saturday morning. 877-297-8022 is the toll-free telephone number. And let us send it back to, let's see here.
Derek, sure. Thanks,
Derek.
John.
I was going to flip a coin.
Well, I thought you forgot our names. So, Scott, I want your opinion. Should have Serge Ibaka got fined, got suspended for what he did to Blake Griffin last week, not just fined the $25,000?
Well, Serge Ibaka is from the Congo, so maybe a hit to the groin in the Congo is how they say hello there. But real talk, I think the NBA has to be a little more consistent in their rulings. If other players get suspended for similar actions, then yes, he should be suspended. The shot that he did was clearly intentional, and the video proves that. So, yeah, I agree with what the NBA does, and I like what the NBA has done over the last 5 years. I mean, they tightened everything up, and I think they're doing a very good job.
Yeah, remind me never to go to the Congo if that's the way they say hello. But I agree with you. I think even the NBA or any sports league needs to be consistent with their suspensions. It just seems to be all over the place that if one player does it and another player does it, doesn't necessarily mean they have the same punishment. I do understand for repeat offenders it gets a harder.
I lost you for a second. I'm sorry. So yeah, I think that Serge Ibaka should have been fined. Obviously. I thought possibly a suspension. When you do something intentional like that, it's just unacceptable. You're a role model. You're trying to hold up the integrity of the game, and I don't know, Scott. Maybe you can back me up on this. As mad as you ever get at someone, I feel like hitting them, in the groin area, is just something that you don't do. I mean, push me, get in my face, if you want to headbutt me, but don't hit me in the groin. I mean, that's just something that I can't take as a player. I don't know. Do you agree with me there?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've never done that to somebody, but I've had it done to me multiple times. If I box out someone too hard or set a screen on them, the next time I set a screen, a guard will come and try to
tap you a little bit.
In the groin, and I've got it plenty of times, and I definitely agree. They do it intentional, but the college level and overseas, they never call that. So
yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, and you know what?
The NBA definitely calls it.
It's funny because if you look at the team that Serge Ibaka plays with in the summertime, I don't know if you guys have read about this or heard about this, but it's something that I follow pretty closely when they played in the Olympics. The Spanish national team, which Serge Ibaka is part of, even though he was born in Congo, but he has dual citizenship in Spain. And when he played with that Spanish team, I don't know if you guys remember, but that was the team that made fun of. I don't remember if it was China or Japan. Doing the eyes thing and those pictures that they took. I feel like the level of maturity sometimes with those players specifically, is in question a little bit. And I feel like that's just an immature thing to do. There's no place for it in the game. But, to kind of transition a little bit, the Western Conference is turning into, a must-see conference, certainly led by the Spurs and Thunder and Clippers. But which of these West bottom 4 seeds are most likely to pull off a first-round upset? The Nuggets, Warriors, Jazz, Rockets, and I'm going to throw in the Lakers, too. They're a half game out of that 8th seed. I think they'll be a 6th seed when it's all said and done. So which one of those teams do you see pulling an upset over those top seeded teams, Scott?
I would have to go with the Nuggets here. I think that they are putting up a lot of points in their wins and looking pretty strong. So if I had to pick an upset team for the West, it would definitely be the Nuggets in this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I see the Nuggets actually, not even pulling one upset, but possibly 2. But I think that would be it. I think that they are the team that if I was in a Western Conference team, I wouldn't want to play. The Lakers have an interesting story too. That if they get there, kind of they can throw the whole season behind them, have a fresh start for the playoffs. And I think people are overlooking that, and they just think just because they're playing this way in the regular season, once playoff time comes, it's a different animal, and teams kind of it's what they play for. It's kind of what it is, and they have enough experience on that Laker team that I wouldn't want to play the Lakers in the first round, even if they squeak in at an 8 seed. Frank?
Yeah. I think the Lakers are really interesting to me right now because they're one of those teams that seem to beat all the teams that they're supposed to beat, but can't beat anyone better than them. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned with the Lakers in the playoffs. Derek, I'm sure you saw the game last night or the highlights last night of the Lakers beating the Raptors, which Kobe Bryant just literally had to have an out-of-body experience there late in the fourth quarter to even have that game send to overtime. Against a team that, if you're the Lakers, you have Kobe Bryant. Obviously Pau Gasol's not playing, but Steve Nash and Dwight Howard, you should beat teams, from the Eastern Conference that aren't as good as you. And granted, the Raptors are on the up and up. I'm a huge, believer in what they're capable of doing as one of those, upsetting teams going forward here now until the end of the season. But that's a game at home that you have to win. And I feel like when looking at these teams that we talked about, the Nuggets to me can beat anyone. They are a deep team. I mean, you look at some of the guys they have coming off the bench, like Wilson Chandler the other night had 36 coming off the bench. Danilo Gallinari is playing great. JaVale McGee is coming off the bench. You see that big block he had the other night. So this team to me is a complete team. They're 28-3 at home now. Best record in the NBA at home besides the Miami Heat. So that's definitely a huge factor. Even if you're a lower seeded team, you still got 3 games at home that you're going to win. So I think they're a very dangerous team. I could see them going to the conference finals and not being surprised.
Yeah, I think whenever the Raptors play the Lakers, their first game plan is make sure Kobe doesn't drop 81 on you.
Yeah.
And I think that's their first game plan. And so whenever Kobe Bryant does not break his record of getting 81 points, I think the Raptors feel that's a win.
Yeah, that's a good point. But, I mean, what do you have, 42 and 18 last night? I mean, that's a pretty good game.
That's only halfway to 81. Jeez, Kobe, you've done better.
Yeah. Well, Derek, did you end up watching the end of that game?
No, I was actually watching the USA-Mexico WBC game, last night.
Yeah, because when I saw the highlights this morning, some of the shots that he hits are just unbelievable, and that's why I always second guess the naysayers on the Lakers. Do I think they'll be one of those top seeded teams? Probably not, but I definitely see them getting into the playoffs.
So talking about playoffs, do you guys feel that the Miami Heat need need home court advantage to repeat as champions. Frank?
No offense to your question, but I don't even think this is a question. I think
really?
This is fiction. Yeah, I think the Heat have shown that they can win on the road or at home. You can see it as their streak. What is it now, 17?
Yeah, 17.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they can win anywhere. And I have a feeling that they're going to win it this year again.
Yeah, I just find that, where it could come in, it's mostly for NBA Final Game 7. If that comes down to the case, you want it to be at home. Because I don't see any team giving them a challenge in the East. I think their first real challenge is going to, I think it's, I don't see any Miami Heat playoff round coming out of the East going more than 5 games.
Wow.
Yep. I agree.
Really, I think the most dangerous team to the Heat is the Indiana Pacers. With the size that they have with David West and Roy Hibbert down low, plus the athletic guards that can guard those good perimeter players. If we see Danny Granger, if not, but Paul George has turned into one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. He may even be. Right now I think it's a coin toss between Paul George and Larry Sanders up in Milwaukee for Defensive Player of the Year. And we saw them take them to 6 last year. They had them on the ropes up 3-2, up 2-1 in that series. I don't think I think a lot of people are just kind of shooing the Eastern Conference off, but I feel like whoever has to play the whether it's Boston in the first round, Boston's not going to be an easy out. We saw Milwaukee get better with J.J. Redick. If you guys remember, the Heat took overtime to beat the Bucks the first time they played this year, and then they lost them by 19 at home. And that's their possible first-round matchup. They have guards on that perimeter that are very difficult to guard, and Larry Sanders in the middle is not a slouch. So I feel like I'd be surprised if they play the Bucks in the first round and that game doesn't go 6 games, just by seeing the success that the Bucks have had against them this year. And we'll get another chance to see them. I believe they play sometime this week. We'll see the Bucks play the Heat again. But I feel like the Heat can be exposed. And I do think that the Heat peaking right now in March is not necessarily a good thing because they're going to have a drop-off at some point. Dwayne Wade is not going to continue to play like this. LeBron James may continue, but I feel like those supporting guys are going to cool off a little bit. The Shane Battier is not going to continue to shoot three-pointers at 80% for the rest of the year. It's just not going to happen. So I'd be surprised if they walk through the East.
I just find that with Miami winning the championship last year, I think LeBron has the weight of the world off his shoulders. Agreed. And he's playing like he was in high school. Like he's just that he's not tight. He's just out there having fun, and it's showing it. And that's why I think a player like that can carry a long way, even with the supporting staff that he does have. Frank?
Oh yeah.
Oh. So that's where I just feel that I think the East should be an easy road for the Heat, and even if it comes down to the Pacers, that experience that the Pacers just don't have when you compare it up to the Heat, especially just LeBron and Dwayne Wade alone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm not saying that I don't expect the Heat to win. I do expect the Heat to win. I just feel like it's not going to be easy. And then again, whoever ends up winning out west, it all depends on matchups out west. If they play with, if they play against Memphis or if they have to play against the Thunder again, we've seen them own the Thunder's number, and we've really seen them have a lack of success against bigger teams. So if it ends up being the Clippers or the Thunder, I see the Heat walking to an NBA championship. But if it ends up being Memphis or even the Nuggets, who knows? I see it being not as easy. Obviously, experience is great, but Dallas really didn't have experience a couple years ago. I mean, they did have Jason Kidd and Dirk Nowitzki, who are great players, but other guys on that team really didn't have NBA Finals experience. I don't know if you can take what they did against the Miami Heat, in 2006 as real experience, but I feel like it's who's hot at that time and who's playing well defensively enough. And again, if you have down low presence, bigs play like a lot of the Western Conference teams do, I feel like you can give the Miami Heat some trouble.
So moving on to the World Baseball Classic that kind of started, at least in this part of the world, this weekend. What's your take of that craziness that happened yesterday, actually, in both the Canada game getting embarrassed by primo past Italian baseball players and the Mexicans defeating the States yesterday, Frank?
Yeah, I'll kind of start with the USA game. I did catch some of that game. I feel like, I don't know, Derek, I'm going to throw this idea at you, and I want to hear what you think of this. What would you think about the WBC instead of having it right now in March, have it an elongated All-Star break up this huge season that these teams have, and instead of putting these pitchers at risk in March and these players at risk with their 60-pitch limit or whatever they have, and have this in July when there's no other baseball going on, when there's no other sports going on, and have it marketed as a 2-week All-Star break, which we all know that the MLB players could, if you're not playing in this, could use a 2-week break in the middle of the season. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's almost comparable to what the NHL does during the Olympics, right?
Absolutely.
When they pretty much cut the season off and send the players over to the Olympics. The thing is, whenever that happens, you have to jam that season in, and for baseball, there's not really many off days as it is. To get a full 162-game season with a 2-week break in the middle, I don't know how you're going to do that.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I don't know if you're up for shortening the regular season of Major League Baseball, to 150 games, ending a little bit early. That way, we're not playing baseball in November. But again, just an idea. I thought yesterday's game, the USA game, I mean, to me, it looked like a March baseball game. It looked like an inconsistently played, poor pitched All-Star, a game in March. That's what it looked like to me. Is that what it looked like to you?
On the American side.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
On the Mexican side, I thought it was the Game 7 of the World Series, just like Canada-Italy. Italy was playing like it was all or nothing because they already had the one game against Mexico. They knew if they beat Canada, they'd be sitting great to going to the next round in Miami. Yep. So that's where it is, and it's felt like, I did watch both games. I'll comment on the Canada game where Italy just had, broken bat single, just every time we thought we had them, shatter a bat, just bloops right behind the second baseman. Yep. And for the American game, a little worried about R.A. Dickey if that's what we're going to get in Toronto, but you have to kind of say hopefully it just kind of is a spring training game, but just the Americans, just like the Canadians, were not playing with that passion that Mexico and Italy was. The interesting thing today is, I guess the Americans have it tough because they are the Giants. Every team that beats, even when Canada plays, the Americans, they're going to play it because they want to beat the Americans. I remember in the World Baseball Classic in 2006 when we did beat the Americans at the Rogers Center in Toronto. It was like, that was it. They ended up losing the next 2 games, but, teams hype them. So it's like playing the champions, right? It's like, you hype yourself up for, you want to beat the full roster of Major League Baseball players, where, half of the Canadians are, AA, AAA players. So having that thing, yes, we do have 2 MVPs with Morneau and Votto on the lineup, but it's just, for the Americans, it's tough because everyone brings their A game when they bring against them. And here's teams that they just got together, a week ago, spring training. So most of the American players did not play, winter ball, unlike the Mexicans.
The entire Central America plays baseball all year.
Mm-hmm. That's where I feel is just kind of, it's going to be interesting to see. But, our shortstop, Cale Orge, tweeted this morning, congrats on the win, Mexico. Have a long night out, and we'll see you in the morning. Like, hopefully Canada will take advantage of Mexico's big win, getting overhyped yesterday and taking Canada for granted, and we can win today because it's just weird. Like, just this whole tournament, how there's one game, it could be over. I guess it's like that for any tournament, but you kind of, there's such a build-up for it, and there's a good chance that, Canada and the United States don't get out of this first round. But, I don't know I was watching my Twitter feed line yesterday, and there wasn't much talk of the WBC. I don't know what it's like down there, but even during the American game, there wasn't many WBC tweets going on my Twitter line.
No, and I think it's something to be a little bit concerned about because even like we talked about this last week, even the way fans perceive this, I didn't even know that there was a game going on last night until I had to like physically go to my cell phone and say, oh wow, there's it should be starting tonight. Where is this game? And then it took me a while to find the game, as opposed to I could watch the entire Yankees spring training on Yes. I know what time it's on. I know what time the games are played. I mean, it's just, to me, it seems like it's one of those things where everyone else takes it much more seriously. And it almost has the dream team effect. Whether it's Canada or the U.S., some of these bigger teams, it's not as important to them, but other teams, it's so important that whether you have the better players or not, you're going to get 110% of every Dominican player on that team, every Mexican player on that Mexican team. And are you getting 100%? Was that R.A. Dickey's best stuff? Was that, I think David Wright had that RBI single, but other than that, I mean, what did they get offensively from that team? That's a pretty good offensive roster. So, I mean, It's just something to be concerned with, especially if you're the WBC.
I think through 5 innings, the States had 3 hits.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah,
it's just kind of with that Stanton and Ryan Braun. So, and I really like to correct the MLB Network. His name is JP Arancibia, not Arancibia.
Arancibia. Yeah, I heard that. I was like, what are they talking about? That's not his name.
Then again, this was the same network that put up the Italian flag for the for Team Mexico.
For Team Mexico, yes, I saw that too. That's a little bit embarrassing, but somebody will lose their job. That's all.
Well, they were close. They just kind of missed that little symbol in the middle. Yeah. Scott, did you catch any of the baseball games yesterday?
No, I did not. I was too busy watching my movies. But I definitely agree with you guys that it's tough to have that in March. I mean, you give them a week to prepare, and like you said, none of them are really playing winter ball. And while other countries are preparing, I remember when I played in Dominican Republic. They're practicing from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. like all day long. It's crazy what they do out there, and they have that weather to do it all year, other than when it rains every day. But they have the weather to train all year, and so does Mexico. So I really think it's smart to have it in July during the All-Star break or some other time other than March where they don't have time to prepare to get ready for these games.
See, I was thinking November, December. Give the players a couple weeks off at the end of the year and then have it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that can work too. But,
yeah.
I mean, these other countries are just having year-round play with the weather they have and how they do things over there. I've been to Mexico. I've been to the DR, Venezuela, and they're out there all day long training. So that's what they have over the USA team.
Well, apparently the next Babe Ruth is in Italy, so, if any scouts will go over to Italy because they all know how to play, apparently. Even though there's one pitcher that his last name is Cooper. I don't know if I've ever met American Italian Cooper before, but I thought most Italians have a vowel at the end of their name, so I think it should be like Cooperini or something.
Let's take a break and come back. The final segment of the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio is straight ahead.
You're on the 405.
Whoa, a new digital music player. Thanks, Mom.
Oh, I'm glad you like it, because I can't wait to toss the big stereo. And now that we got your dad that big HD TV he wanted, we can throw out our old TV, too.
Hold up. You can't just throw out electronics.
Really?
They need to be recycled or donated.
And how would we do that?
It's so easy, Mom. Today, recycling electronics is just as easy as buying them. GreenerGadgets.org has all the info. We just enter our zip code to find a certified recycling center nearby. There are thousands of them, and new ones are being added all the time. Some of our local stores are even certified recycling locations.
I like that.
Did you know that some of the stuff in our old electronics could be used to make new products and conserve natural resources?
Well, okay then. Let's gather them up. What was that website again?
GreenerGadgets.org. We just enter our zip code and go.
Research shows that over 99% of Americans are not at their ideal heart health.
Hey, Mikey, did you know exercise will lower your risk of heart disease?
Yes, DW, and we look better than ever.
Let's win this thing, boys. I've got to get to my regular checkup.
Mike, this is actually a pretty big race. I'm starting to get a little nervous. Nervous? You need to relax, Larry and back. Stress is bad for you.
Visit heart.org/Fox Sports for simple steps to a better, healthier life.
Hey, what's up? This is Gwen speaking for Rad. Give up the keys, choose a designated driver. Music lives, so should you.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hey! Is this heaven? No. It's Iowa.
Closing segment of the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio. Hey, if you're checking us out, we'd like to check you out. Want to give some shout-outs to listeners in Bidford, Maine, Tampa, Florida, Frankfurt am Main. That's in Germany, guys. What do you think of that? Roseville, Michigan, Orlando, Macomb, Michigan, Northville, Michigan, a couple of other listeners in Germany. You guys are huge there. Who knew? Anyway, let's send it back to Frank on the CANUSA Sports Desk on the 405 Radio.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit UEFA Champions League right now. Pretty big game on Tuesday. Two of the world's best soccer teams, biggest soccer teams, Manchester United and Real Madrid. They met. They played in the second leg of the Champions League knockout play. It was in Old Trafford, and I just want to get your guys' thoughts on the game itself. Pretty controversial. Had an own goal. Nani's red card. I just want to get your take on that, Derek.
I don't think Nani should have got a red card on that. Should have been a yellow. Yes. I know it was dangerous high kick, but he did not know the player was there. His eye was on the ball. He didn't go in and lunged at the player. He was trying to bring the ball down with his foot. But then again, that ref was very skeptical of his calls all game long. Exactly. It's just. It was quite interesting. I think I tweeted, I'm glad there's no match fixing in soccer, tongue in cheek, because that's the kind of game where red card happens. Real scores 2 goals in 3 minutes. It was whenever these two teams like that meet together, it's an entertaining game. Real was lucky for Nani's red card. I think Jose Mourinho said it best, which is kind of weird that the best team lost. Not normally you hear the coach of the winning team saying the other team was better, but sometimes people say he's just kind of applying for his next job at Manchester United when Sir Alex Ferguson retires. But what I do really want to comment is the classy move, which wish more North American athletes would do this, but of Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes. Going back to Old Trafford for his first time since leaving, scoring the game-winning goal and not celebrating, almost to a sign to the fans of apology. He's done this before, actually. His first time back in Portugal with Manchester United against Sporting Lisbon, the team that sold him to Man United. He scored there in the Champions League, and he did the same thing, kind of did not celebrate, just kind of said, just doing my job. And his class move by Old Trafford fans cheering him on when he came back. I guess it's kind of different because they did sell him. He didn't say he wanted to leave Manchester, so it's a little different than LeBron going out of Cleveland. So but that kind of the different reception that he got going back and the reception that Cristiano Ronaldo got. But I think it was a classy night all around at Old Trafford with the fans showing the respect to Ronaldo and Ronaldo paying it back, and you just don't see that often in North America. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I thought that was definitely a classy move. I always love, when those players go back, for him to play again at Old Trafford and then to score the game-winning goal. You have to imagine the amount of, I don't even know the right word. I guess the amount of happiness or joy that, and I'm underselling it, was going through Cristiano Ronaldo's head, and then all of a sudden to not react on that. It would almost be like scoring the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl and not celebrating. And that just shows the immense respect that some of these European players have for the game of soccer and the fans of soccer. Because every time he's gone back to play Man U or to play in that building, they've always given him a warm welcome. And it's something that's nice to see from a fan standpoint, where in some of these North American sports, if a huge guy comes back, typically, they give him a standing ovation, then he's booed. But it just seems like there's a different level of respect that they have. But then to get back to the game, I thought there was a lot of interesting points in this game. It seemed like Man U controlled the entire game. I wanted to get your opinion. Ryan Giggs got his thousandth start in his appearance. What did you think about Sir Ferguson's decision to start him in this game?
Well, when Ryan Giggs is 86 years old, eventually he does get 1,000 games played.
Yeah.
But I just find, it's the more interesting thing was Sir Alex not starting Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
And it's just, I guess what they said is that Rooney's agent's trying to, see what interest is out there at other clubs, and Sir Alex doesn't like that. That's kind of what happened with Beckham, kind of making a deal with Real while he was still at Manchester. So I think Rooney's wife even tweeted that she was surprised that he didn't start, so it wasn't something that was known to Wayne Rooney prior to the game, because I guess he went to the stadium expecting to start. I think I didn't take much of Giggs getting his 1,000th start. He's been around for a long time. I think it was just a matter of time before he got that. The big thing with Manchester is, with Rooney, I think, Van Persie has taken the face of Man United this year, and Rooney has never really lived up to the hype. I think he's just has that hype because he is British, and sometimes, British fans need to build up their own, and the best they had was Rooney, but on the world stage, Rooney never compared to the world powerhouses like a Ronaldo or a Messi, or now they bring in Van Persie, and Van Persie is outshining Wayne Rooney.
Oh, for sure, yeah, and I think it's something so interesting with soccer. I feel like soccer is English football is such a different sport, and I feel like it's hard for a lot of North American fans to really understand. There's so many Champions League, UEFA. There's so many different things. Premiership games. What's the difference between this game? I feel like it's difficult for people to follow, for the average sports fan to follow. So people shy away, and they'll watch big games and they know the big names, but it's difficult to understand when you don't watch constantly, and that's why I feel like watching soccer constantly, watching those big games constantly, you learn, more about that game. And I just think it's great. And to see the way they act and the, 75,000 people were at that game, that's an amazing attendance. You talk about pro football games, that's more than pro football games get. That's a packed day, in any NFL stadium, and they draw that easily, and the tickets go for much more than they do for NFL games. So I just think that's it's very interesting when you look at world sports and the interest in world sports.
Before we go to the rapid fire, one question I always get, being European, being raised up on watching soccer, people always ask, how do you watch it? It's so boring. It's like watching paint dry. I kind of compare it to an overtime hockey game. It's the goals are so few and far between that once a goal comes in, it's almost like, the game winner. You never know if there's going to be another one. So you're watching it with that suspense that, all it takes is one goal. So, but on that note, I think it's time for some rapid fire, John.
Let's hit it, man. Number 1, should the NHL require its players to wear visors? Number 2, whose streak is more impressive, the Miami Heat or the Chicago Blackhawks? Wes Welker says he'll test the free agent market this offseason. Which team will Welker be playing for? And finally, as usual, what are you guys watching this week? Derek?
So I say yes, the NHL should require players to wear visors. All these players wore visors or some sort of face protection in junior and minor hockey, so they're used to it. Eyes are kind of a valuable thing. I don't know why these players don't want to wear one and risk their sight. I think the Chicago Blackhawks streak is more impressive. Like LeBron James said yesterday, this team's doing it without a training camp. They're just, getting in there, getting on the ice. The streak did end last night. They lost to Colorado, but, still kudos to them to what they did. And I think Wes Welker will be playing for the New England Patriots. I think he's going to test the free agent market, but at the end of the day, he's going to go back and re-sign with New England. And I will be watching the World Baseball Classic. Scott?
Wow, I agree with all those answers. Yes, I agree that they should be wearing some sort of face protection. I've been to a few Blackhawks games, and I see a lot of missing teeth, and I like my smile, so I would go yes with the visors. Being from Chicago, I got to go with my Blackhawks. I got to say 2013 Stanley Cup winners right there. And again, like LeBron said, they didn't have the time to train together, and they had to just get right on the ice. So I think that's a test of what they have accomplished. And again, I agree with what he said. I think that he's going to test the free agent market, but at the end of it, he's going to stay with New England. And like I said, I'm a big movie fan, so I'm actually going to go see The Wizard of Oz.
Ooh, that's it. Yeah, the Great and Powerful Oz, right? Is that the name of the movie?
Oh yeah, it's not The Wizard of Oz. It's the other part of it.
The prequel, I guess what they say. But anyway, should NHL players wear masks? Absolutely. 73% of NHL players already do wear masks, so I don't see the issue there. We saw what happened to Mark Stahl this week. That was tragic. The guy's out indefinitely for who knows how long. Which streak was more impressive? I'm going to say the Miami Heat. I figured both of you guys would say the Blackhawks. They've won 17 in a row. The Blackhawks were 11 in a row winning-wise. I know the point streak is different, but I just think what the Miami Heat are doing with that target on their back, plus the win streak, makes it a little bit more impressive. Wes Welker, I think he will be playing for the New England Patriots with a pay cut, but I would love to see him on the Jets. I feel like he's the thing that the Jets need to kind of get going a little bit. I feel like he'd be a good weapon for Mark Sanchez as one of those possession receivers. And what I'll be watching today, Syracuse and Georgetown play for the last time as Big East opponents, one of the best rivalries in college basketball in the Big East. Jim Boeheim, John Thompson III, Patrick Ewing, Allen Iverson, Derek Coleman, Carmelo Anthony. It goes on and on. It's sad to see a rivalry like this come to an end. And then finally I'll be watching the WGC Cadillac Open. Tiger Woods, making history again, 13 birdies, I believe, in 2 rounds, most ever, to start off a tournament for him. So we'll be watching that.
Okay, Welker Schmelker, where's Greg Jennings going to play next year, guys?
I think I don't see Greg Jennings bringing in as much else because he was injured a lot this year. So receiver, they have that question mark beside his name. I think whoever gets Greg Jennings will be a value for him, and he will. If I would sign Greg Jennings to a 1 year, prove himself, and then get his money. And to Greg Jennings, I would take it as a player too. You have 1 year pit stop at a bad team, let's say Buffalo, but any team, just kind of prove what you're worth again, because he was injured a lot last year for Green Bay. But I see Jennings getting a short contract. I don't see a team putting a long term beside his name.
Yeah. Okay, Scott, agreed. This is the shameless self-promotion part of the program. You get to talk about what you're doing online, a Twitter account, Facebook, websites, or anything else that you do online that we want to check out.
Sounds good. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Scott Van Hooper. And also you can check me out at www.scottvanhooper.com or go to my agent's website at www.wcm.us. And also look out for my business page, my venture capital company at www.internationalinfusion.com.
So, this guy's everywhere.
So, Scott, I guess you tweet a lot about your movies?
Yeah. You guys try to tweet about sports 24/7. I tweet about a lot of movies.
Really?
I mean,
we could add a movie review segment here, or some other time. I'm down for that.
Definitely, it has to be in Redbox or in the movie theaters because there's no more blockbusters around.
I found a website where these guys were doing movie reviews of 30-year-old Star Trek movies. How weird is that?
That is
all right, that's going to do it. CANUSA Sports Desk for another Saturday morning here on the 405 Radio. Pit Lane coming up. You can talk NASCAR with Chad and Joel from Indiana on the 405 Radio. So until then, we'll talk to you next week. And this is John Grant. See you later.